You gotta be kidding me! Hey, what's going on, Rage Nation? I hope everyone's had a fantastic release and a very relaxing holiday week if you live in the States. Okay, well, hopefully you were able to balance it out better than I was. As always, we're back at it again with another dungeon guide, this one being the first of a series highlighting the ins and outs of each new dungeon on Mythic difficulty, giving you the tips and tricks you need to survive. one second, sorry. Hey, what's going on, Ian? How you doing, buddy? What do you mean they're not 184 item level? Really? Pull the plug on this whole thing. All right, call my PR guy. Get him on the phone. Get this camera off my face. Nah, unlike 95% of groups in Group Finder already, this guide's gonna show you how to cruise through this dungeon with the best of them. Crack out your number 2 pencils, class, because this one's gonna be a banger. Let's get into the Necrotic Wake. Before we get started, I'd like to take a second to thank the sponsor of this video, and that is my Twitch channel. Without the support of the Rage Nation, I couldn't continue to do what I do. Alright, kicking it off with the first room, which contains a whole mess of mobs and your first boss, Blightbone. Now this room, though the opportunities for massive pulls seem endless, and they absolutely can be done, your primary concern needs to be managing interrupts, CCs, and focusing down your priority targets. Zul'Ramis Gatekeepers should be solo pulled, as they will continue to summon one patchwork soldier after another until killed. They also place a lethal dot on individuals called Clinging Darkness that stacks until expiring after 30 seconds. This dot, when dispelled, jumps to a new player but does not carry all the stacks and does not refresh the time. Corpse Harvesters cast a channel called Drain Fluids, which stuns a party member and should be the focused interrupt. This works like refreshment vendors for those of you who have run through the Motherlode. The Stitched Vanguard is arguably as lethal as the Gatekeepers, as they have a stacking buff that increases attack speed, and they regularly place a shield over themselves, which makes them even more deadly the longer that the fight goes on. After you clear a majority of the mobs in front of Blightbone, you will be able to pull the boss. You want to ensure that you have the most amount of room available, as he has abilities which on Mythic makes large chunks of the ground unable to be occupied. First, he'll target an individual player and cast a frontal at them, which can be dodged by all but the targeted player. It's not lethal, but on higher keystones will likely require a defensive. Eventually, he will summon 3 carrion worms. These are priority number 1, as they will be what dissolve groups on this boss. They target individual players, and each time they hit you, they grow in strength until exploding after 3 tags, and applying a hard-hitting dot to all players. Both the boss and, when killed, the carrion worms will drop fetid gas, which makes a circle of uninhabitable area which the players just have to navigate around. Now, on the way from Blightbone to Amarth the Harvester, you will encounter a couple groups of trash with the central unit being a Zul'Ramis Necromancer. Just burn the Necromancer. All of the skeletal units surrounding him will collapse on his death. The primary other trash mobs you'll encounter in this area are the Skeletal Marauders. Tanks, turn these big boys away, as they let loose regular and nasty cleaves on all party members in front of them. Aside from that, make sure interrupts go out on their rasping scream, as it is a very hard to avoid fear for all melee units in the party. There are also 2 mini-bosses on the way to Amarth, and the first is Nar Zuda. He himself isn't all that bad, but he rolls with a bad group of casters, who will not be doing any favors for your tank, so make sure CCs and interrupts are in order. Aside from that, he casts Shared Agony, which targeted players just need to run away from each other to break, and Dark Shroud, which is his own defensive, which needs to actually be dispelled. The second mini-boss is the Skeletal Monstrosity, who patrols in a very hostile territory, so ensure he's either pulled alone or very effective CCs go out. This boss will just require you to run out of melee range a lot, so make sure you're aware of your current surroundings. Another important key mechanic of this dungeon are the weapons of Bastion that lie around the dungeon that all players can use to high effect on the dungeon mobs. The shield increases your defenses by 50% for a short time, the hammer temporarily stuns an enemy, not including mini-bosses, and the spear deals a massive amount of damage to any mob. After plowing through those twerps, you make your way to Amarth. This one's going to be a little more cleavy, boys and girls, so grab a Shadow Priest and shake him upside down till all those spicy dots fall out. He will periodically summon skeletal units via Land of the Dead, which need to be burned down so as not to become overwhelmed during the fight. After a short time, Amarth will cast Final Harvest, which causes any mobs remaining to explode, dealing damage to anyone within 8 yards. This ability will also bolster his Tortured Echoes, which deals damage that scales based on the deaths of allies and enemies alike. Only other important thing to note is that a class with a Soothe ability can help make your tank's life easier by dispelling Unholy Frenzy off of Amarth when cast. After knocking Amarth out of the game, you'll be flown up to the Necropolis, where you'll find yourself in the middle of a room full of trash. It all must be killed in order to progress onto the boss. Notable mobs and abilities you will encounter include Corpse Collectors, who will use both the already discussed Drain Fluids ability and Gore Splatter. Gore Splatter will apply a dot to all nearby players, so it will just need to be a top priority for interrupt. Moving through the other mobs rapid fire, you'll encounter Kyrian Stitchworks, which will hit the tank or threat holding target with Tenderize. They have big health pools and short cast times, so this ability, which increases physical damage taken by 15%, will stack. Burn, stack defensives, or having an off-tank target take a stack are the options with these guys. Fleshcrafters will throw cleavers that hit the first target, friend or foe, in its path. Just LOS with an enemy and be the real MVP. Lastly, spare parts will fixate random targets, so make sure you lead them into the cleave range of your party if you are targeted. After the room is clear, the boss will summon in a few more waves of mobs, which just recycle the abilities already seen in this room. Be mindful of your positioning and you shouldn't have any problems. After the 3 summon waves are dealt with, Surgeon Stitchcraft will start summoning Stitchflesh's creations, which will be used by players to hook the boss off his platform. After he's pulled down is when you should pop cooldowns, as he is immune while he's up on his balcony. He will jump back up regularly throughout the fight, but his creations will continue to spawn, so make sure you're killing one as a new one is created so as not to get overwhelmed. Note that you can continue to hook Stitchflesh while he is down in combat to help with kiting for your tank. Hook management is key in this fight, and because of the intricacies of it, it's important to make sure everyone knows the mechanics before engaging in a timed run of this content. After Stitchflesh, it's on to the last boss. Literally, there are no more mobs between the last 2 bosses. Hooray! Be mindful of that, however, when Mythic Plus comes around for mob percentage management. Now for the Nowthor the Rhymebender encounter. This boss has only 3 real abilities: Frozen Binds, Comet Storm, and Dark Exile. Frozen Binds immobilizes one player who needs to be dispelled or use an ability like Disengage to free themselves. However, they need to be mindful of their surroundings, as the debuff will jump to any other players within their circle. Comet Storm just drops heavy-hitting comets in fast succession on the marked swirlies on the ground. Just walking continuously during this was enough to stay ahead of them. Finally, he casts Dark Exile on a single random player, which sends them to a lower platform to traverse a gauntlet and kill a single enemy on the other side. They have 50 seconds to complete the gauntlet or perish. When they defeat the enemy, they are taken back up to the boss platform and will drop a rather large void zone, so making sure they observe the logic of space conservation
Get that to the side!
will help out in the long run. And that's really it. Make sure you have your dancing shoes on, because there's a decent bit of movement in this fight, and other than that, prepare for celebration time. Congratulations, you made it to the end of the dungeon. Guys, thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. I hope you learned something. I hope you enjoyed what you saw. If you did, please make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It helps me out more than you could know. I think at this time of recording, which is 1:50 a.m., we just hit 500 subscribers, which was massive because that was my goal for 2020. So I'm taking the next month off, guys. Nah, I'm just kidding. We'll keep getting videos of that every week until I'm dead. If you really liked what you saw, though, guys, seriously, you can check me out over on Twitch. I'm live pretty much every day except for Sunday from 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time until about 10 p.m., maybe a little bit later if I like you guys. Otherwise, you guys enjoy the rest of the day. Tell someone you love them. tell another player you're proud of them, and we'll see you guys next time. Remember, we rage because we care. I'll see you guys.